Okay, hi guys. So, as I promised, I was going to walk you through the CRQ and kind of guide you through what the expectation's going to be, so that when we do one on Tuesday about Buddhism, you feel more confident in what the expectation is. So, I'm going to walk you through this. You will have your own paper copy. Feel free to annotate the way I do, um, or just follow along with your own paper copy. So, with every CRQ, there will always be two documents. The first document is always going to be a context document. So that means you needed to give the background information. There was either going to be a geographic context question or a historic context question. So in this case, we are looking at the historical context, which means what was going on in history when this document was created. So, first things first, I always annotate my documents. I read them and then write stuff down before I even really look into how I'm going to answer the question on the bottom so that I know what the document is about. So, when I'm looking at this one, first I'm going to read the source line, Exodus 21, lines 1 through 21, King James Version of the Holy Bible. Okay, clues. And then it says, explain the historical context of these laws of Judaism being written down. So, at first look, I read through the document. I'm not going to read through every single one, but hopefully, as you're reading through them, you realize my first annotation, although I don't have the ability to really write right now, would be these are the 10 these are the 10 commandments, right? And I know that God gave them to Moses. This is the ethical code of Judaism. All right, so those are my annotations, just stuff that I know that connects to this document. For my own point of reference, that might not answer the question being asked, but that's just information I want to write down. Okay, so now that I have that general background for myself, I need to explain the historical context. What was happening in history when these laws were being written down? So that's the background story. So if you think back to your notes on Judaism, what was happening in history? So I would say the historical context of these laws of Judaism are or were was when okay, so this is when Moses received the 10 commandments. So this is when Moses led the Jewish people, or Hebrew people, truly, because they weren't truly referred to as Jews yet, the Hebrew people out of Egypt back towards Canaan, or Canaan / Israel, right? That Holy Land or that Promised Land. Moses received these laws from God as part of a covenant with the Hebrew people, right? And that covenant was that the agreement was the Hebrews or Jews would follow these 10 commandments or laws and would in return be given the Holy Land, which is Canaan / Israel. All right, so that's what was happening in history. And if you're like, Mrs. Jackson, no, that's from the Bible. But actually, when we talk about the Torah, or the first 5 books of the Tanakh, the Jewish Bible, this does explain. This is the historical context. It is a primary source and how we actually learn about the migrations and movements of the Jewish people. So the historical context is basically explaining that these 10 laws, how did they come to be, and where did they come from? Who was the person, right? So answering those questions, the who, what, when, where, why, that's usually your historical context, right? So we explained what was happening in history when these laws were written down or given, in the sense that, you know, Judaism says that they were given to Moses by God. Okay, our second question is always going to be a sourcing question. It's always going to be about the purpose or the point of view, or the audience, like who it was written for, right? It's about more about why this piece was written. So first we read our context. It says, traditionally accepted as one of the supplementary arms of the Vedas, Laws of Manu or Manava, Dharma Shastra, is one of the standard books in the Hindu canon, or the Hindu religious texts, and a basic text for all religious leaders to base their teachings on. The opening of the work narrates how 10 great sages appealed to Manu to pronounce the sacred laws to them, and how Manu fulfilled their wishes. Okay, so this is it's called the Laws of Manu. The great sages approached Manu, who was seated with a collected mind, and having duly worshipped him, spoke as follows. All right, and so I'm not going to read through each one, but take a moment to read. Okay, our source line is the Laws of Manu, right? Hinduism, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so our question that we are answering is, what was the purpose of the Laws of Manu? Why were they created? So when we're talking about purpose, you need to ask, why was this created, and who is it intended for? So in this instance, if we go back to our context actually helps us answer the question, right? So when you're reading through the context, it says that the Laws of Manu, is one of the standard books in the Hindu canon, or Hindu religious texts, and the basic text for all religious leaders to base their teachings on. So what were the Laws of Manu, or the purpose of the Laws of Manu? If this book or this text was for religious leaders to base their teachings on, and then you read about what it states, it states things like Brahmin, Kshatriya, and Vaisya castes are the twice born ones, but the fourth, the Sudra, has one birth only. There is no fifth caste. In all castes, those children only which are begotten in direct order on wedded wives equal in caste. When you read through it, what does it sound like? It sounds like these are the ways that you have to behave. So what was the purpose? The purpose of the Laws of Manu were to guide Hindus. How do I know this is about Hinduism? Well, I got a clue here. Hindu canon, Vedas, that's the holy text of Hinduism. So it was to guide Hindus in how to follow their dharma, or act in society. I'm not typed today. Okay. So we answered questions 1 and 2. So always in a CRQ, question 1 is our context, our background. It's going to ask for the background of the document. Question 2 is always going to be a different document and ask you about the sourcing or the purpose behind the document. And then the third question is always about finding the relationship between these two documents. So sometimes it will be a cause and effect. One of the documents will be the cause, and one of the documents will be the effect. Sometimes it will be how these two documents show a turning point, and sometimes it's going to be about how they're similar and different. So this time around, it is asking us for a similarity or a difference between the ideas or events found in documents 1 and 2. All right, so I think that it's very clear to see that there is a similarity here. So I have to identify it. Documents 1 and 2 are similar in, oh, I should write that again. Documents 1 and 2 are similar because they both are laws or guidelines for their religious followers. Now I need to explain why there is that similarity. So why is there this similarity between these laws? Or what we know is that most religions have an ethical code for the followers to practice. Okay. For example, in document 1, we need evidence to support or prove that we know what we're talking about. So we always pull from our documents. So if I go back to document 1, I need to find something that proves that this is a guide for or an ethical code for followers. All right. So I can choose any one of them. So how about we do remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. So in document 1, it states, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. This explains to Jewish followers how or to hold a day aside for worship. In document 2, it states, okay, oops, sorry. I'm gonna do some copying and pasting here. All right. That Brahmin must know the means of substance, right? Brahmin must know the means of substance prescribed by law for all and instruct others and himself according himself live according to the law. This explains to Hindu followers how to complete their dharma. This okay. So what I did here is I've identified my similarity, right? And I can even space that out. I can say my similarity is that document 1 and 2 are similar because they're both laws or guidelines for their religious followers. And then I need to explain my reasoning, explain why there is this similarity. And I explain that most religions do in fact have an ethical code for their followers to practice. For example, I'm showing you how they're both instances. I'm using a piece of evidence from both documents to show you, look, it's telling their followers what to do or how to behave. Right? So I'm proving my similarity. Right? So you want to find a quote from each document to actually prove your similarity true. And once you do that, you've met the task. Okay, so this is basically what is expected in a CRQ. They're not super long. You shouldn't have really long paragraphs. That's not the purpose, but rather a quick, precise way to answer these three questions and show a relationship between them. Right, so we're going to do one on Tuesday on Buddhism, but here's your first taste of CRQs for ninth grade.